books out here. Genesis 1 and 2 from the Hebrew text. I'm not teaching you Hebrew, so to speak, but I want you to understand what's really there, not just what I say is there. I want you to understand this is the living Word of God right here that we're playing with right now. This isn't just some translation. We're touching the original autograph, okay? This is like Moses signed it, like Jehovah put it there. All right? This is it. We ha'aretz. Hayata. Tohu. Wavuhu. We shoshik. El. Panei. Tahom. We ruach. Elohim. Merichefeth. Al. Panei. On the next page. Al. Panei. Hamayim. Now, I know that Sharon's ahead of everybody. Well, that's because you've had this a few times with me. But the Hebrew is not so much important. It's the Bible. Now, in the first verse that we have, the first word here is we ha'aretz. There's three things in that word. It's broke down three ways. We is and, that's a conjunction. Ha is the definite article. And eretz. You know what eretz means? You remember what that means, Sharon?
It means dry land.
It means dry land. The dry land. And here it's talking about the earth. Now, it began before, last week we studied Barashith, Bara, Elohim, Et Hashemayim, Et Haaretz. It says, in one of the beginnings, because we have a plural beginnings there that's not translated correctly in most of the translations. It's a plural word. In one of the beginnings, He had created, God, He had created Et Hashemayim, which means what? That Et Hashemayim. That means the whole universe. The whole universe. And then it says, we ha'aretz. And then it says, and the earth. Now, He created the universe before He created the earth, didn't it? They say the earth come out of the sun and all this kind of stuff, but it did not. All of it came from God, and God placed the earth exactly in the right place in the universe to totally support life and to do what it's doing here today. And it was inhabited when He created it. It was created to be inhabited. Now, Ezekiel 28, 12 through 19, Isaiah 14, 12 through 17, Isaiah 45 and verse 8. Isaiah 45 and verse 8. And I forgot my other Bible with all the marks in it, where all this was. Isaiah 45 and verse 8. Let's look at that. I had all these earmarked here, and the other one, but I'll find it. Drip down, O heavens, from above, and let the clouds pour down righteousness, and let the earth open up, and salvation bear fruit, and righteousness spring up. I, the Lord, hath created it. Now, what we see here, go back up in verse 5. I am the Lord, and there is none other. As we're coming down here, who's speaking in Isaiah the 45th chapter? It says that I am the Lord and there is none other. And here the word there is I am Jehovah and there is none other. Besides me there is no God. Now your Jehovah Witness brethren say that Jesus is a created God. Do they not?
Yes, sir.
Now how many gods are there? How many gods do they have? They have at least two, don't they? They have the God the Father and God the Son, which was created. And He's a lesser God than the other one. Now, that's not the truth. But that's what they teach. He said here, there's no other God besides me. And I will gird you up, though you have not known me, and the men may know from the rising and the setting of the sun, and there is no one besides me, and I am the Lord, and there is no other. And the morning, the forming light and creating darkness, causing well-being and creating calamity, I am the Lord who does all of these things. And drip down, O heavens, from above, and let the clouds pour down, and let the earth open up and salvation bear, and righteousness spring up. I, the Lord, have created it. Now, the Lord created the heavens and the earth. Nobody else did. It didn't evolve. It happened. On Sunday, or not Sunday afternoon, I taught for Sunday afternoon for about 80 classes. I taught creation versus evolution. And we're going to kind of look at that as we do this. Now, people ask me, what happened? Is man the only person that ever lived on the earth? Are there other beings out there? Now, man is man, isn't he? There are no other earths. This is the earth that God created, and I can guarantee you he didn't create 40 or 50 other earths going on at the same time, because I don't think Jesus wants to come and die in all those places. Do you? I think once was enough, and that's what it says, hapax, once was enough. We have one earth, and we have one universe that mankind is centralized in here. We have a lot of universes out there, don't we? We know that they're there. Go up and look in the Milky Way. You'll see all of that, all of those stars out there. But there's no other Earths. There are no other Earths. This is the one that God decided to create. And verse number 1, we are in the earth. Hayata. Hayata. And the earth, it says here, it's third. Sharon, can you conjugate that verb for me there? Hayata.
In verse 1?
In verse 2.
Verse 2, okay.
Third person, singular, feminine, cow. Something perfect.
Cow perfect.
Oh, cow perfect.
Cow perfect. It's preterite also, but it's cow perfect.
Okay.
Okay? Third person singular, feminine, cow perfect. So what is third person singular, feminine? Who is that?
She.
She. Okay, we agree with that. She. That's what this is. Now you can look in lexicons, and I can look at lexicons, and you can see this. This is what this verse, that verb says. That verb is third person feminine singular. So it's she. The earth is the subject here, and she had become. She had become something. She changed. She had become. Now, in another place in the book of Genesis, it tells us that's Lot's wife. What happened to Lot's wife when she looked back to Sodom? And this is a real story, by the way. This is real historical fact. Lot's wife didn't want to leave. And if you want to read all about Lot and more about it than we have in the Bible, go read the book of Jasher. The book of Jasher. Hasaver Yashur. That tells you some terrible things that were going on in Sodom. And that he had one daughter that was murdered by these Sodomites. And terribly tortured. And his wife and 2 daughters left with him. He had no more influence than that. He had no influence out there in Sodom at all. And he was supposed to be a missionary, but he became a mission field, didn't he? We're either missionaries or mission fields. Well, he was forced to leave by the angels. Now, he had one good attribute. He tried to protect those angels, didn't he? Now, we know that angels and man have fornicated together, haven't they? All right? We know that. That the Bible tells us that. In Genesis, the 6th chapter, we know that. And here in Sodom, they wanted to have sex with these angels. And Lot said, take my virgin daughters. Take them and do whatever you wish to, but leave these men alone. Leave them alone. Now, angels always look like what? Men. Okay. So, and he did protect them. He tried to. He put him in his room. Don't stay out on the street. Come in my room. And then they were knocking on his door, and they demanded that he give them out. He offered them his daughters. And then what happened? What happened in that story, in that historical event? God did something to them, didn't he?
Struck them blind.
He struck them all blind. They couldn't find each other, couldn't find anything. And then God began to lead Lot and his family out. And he told them, do not look back to Sodom. Do not look back. When we leave the world, we shouldn't look back, should we? That's just the way it is. We shouldn't look back. When they left, they got outside of Lot, and there was fire and brimstone. Now, I had a friend by the name of Walt West that did a core drilling there where they think that Sodom was. They were looking for oil. And core drilling is you go down, and it is a drill bit, and it's got diamonds around the edge of it, and it's got a hollow place in there, and they'll go down there, and this drill bit is about, the core drill bit, is 20, 30 feet long. And you go down there, and you take this core drilling, and then you pull it out, and they take this pressure pump, and they pump it, and it pushes that core out, and you, sometimes every inch, sometimes every foot, you'll mark it. This is where it was. He said they uncovered the core drilling of this, and that city is down there. It's really there. The Bible says it's there, doesn't it? Where did he take it down? He took it down. He burned it down. And they say there is so much atomic radiation still left from that act of God that their Geiger counters went nuts. He said, I can get one of those. We got it in a lead box. He said, I'll bring it and show that to you if you want to see it. He said, there's pottery just melted, like you put it in a furnace. These things are there. Bones and all that. This is all there. This is where God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Actually, he destroyed 5 cities, didn't he? Burned them down. It's really there. That really happened. Well, Lot left, but his wife didn't want to leave, did she? They didn't want to leave. The daughters didn't want to leave. Lot's wife didn't want to leave, and Lot's wife turned around and did what? It says she became a pillar of salt. That's the same verb right here. The same verb. Exactly the same verb. That's in Genesis 19:26, I believe it is. Let's go to Genesis 19:26 just for a moment. Genesis 19:26. Now let's see how the translators translated it here. Then the Lord rained, verse 24, and then the Lord rained on Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. Now this here was atomic action according to Walter West. He said this was atomic action. And he threw those cities, and all the valley, and all the inhabitants of the cities, and what grew aground. He overthrew them. And his wife from behind him looked back, and what does it say? She became a pillar of salt. That's this verb right here. It's exactly the same word. Hayata. Hayata, and she became a pillar of salt. Now, what does it say in Genesis 1 and 2 in King James or whatever other translation? Genesis 1 and 2. Huh? What's Genesis 1 and 2 say? And the earth was formless. Was the earth formless or not? The earth became formless and void, and darkness was over the faces of the deep. Let's go translate this, and then we're going to look and see what took place here. You probably heard this before, from me before, but this you can see from the text yourself. You can read the text right there in front of you. You can see it. And the earth, she had become. She became, as perfect tense. Here we have the word tohu. You were asking me about that, Brother Ray. Now you can look at the word. See that tohu there? That's it, tohu. This word right here. That's the word right there, tohu. Tohu. That's how you say it, tohu.
Is that the first word or the second word?
That's the third word over there.
Okay, here it is.
The third word from the right, tohu. That is emptiness. It's void. It's on page 1062 in Brown, Driver, and Briggs right there on that page, that book right there. It means a void, emptiness. And we know that God did not create the earth that way. The Bible did not create the earth like that. And then it says, Wavuhu, Wavuhu. And here is Wavuhu. 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 That's it. Now this word means empty waste, useless, wasteless, wasteland. Right? Now the Bible said this happened. Now let's go to Ezekiel the 28th. Ezekiel 28. And let's look at God in the book of Ezekiel, but through the prophet Ezekiel, he decides to tell us what happened back here. Ezekiel, the 28th chapter. Here he's talking about prophecies. He's making a dual prophecy here. He's talking about the king of Tyre, and he's talking about Satan at the same time. Some of these things do not apply to the king of Tyre at all. Period. Zero. Son of man, take up the lamentation over the king of Tyre, and say to him, Thus says Jehovah Elohim, or Jehovah Adonai, is what it says. The word Jehovah and then Adonai. What does Adonai mean, Sharon? Lord, Master. The Lord Master. The Master Lord. Our despotes. And he talks about Lucifer, is what he's talking about. This is about Lucifer. And let's see, now, did God ever create anything bad? Did he ever create anything void and all of this? Now, thus saith the Lord God, you have the seal of perfection. Does God create men to damn them? As Muhammad said. Muhammad said he created hell to fill it with men and demons and devils. Sharon, why did God create hell?
For the fallen angels.
For the devil and his angels. Is that what, you agree with her, Vincent? You agree with that? How about that, Carol? You agree with that? Hell was not created for men at all, was it? Wasn't created for men. But mankind fell. And how long ago were they angels created?
Before
eternity.
This is eternity past. So let's go back and find out when this was. This is eternity past. This isn't in space and time yet, is it? We're in eternity. We're not talking about space and time at all. We're way back yonder. In eternity past. Now there was an earth. There was an earth. And there's a place in the earth called Eden. Eden. Remember what Eden means? You remember? Any of you remember what Eden means? Sharon, do you remember what that means?
It means delicacies or dainty bites.
It means small little dainty pieces like kings get when they prepare their food for them. They give them one little piece of food at a time, like hors d'oeuvres. You ever had hors d'oeuvres? Hors d'oeuvres? Yeah, hors d'oeuvres. And you have these hors d'oeuvres. And it's dainty specialty things. They're real special. That's what the king eats. He doesn't eat like the average man. He eats his specialties. And so Eden is a throne room. It's a palace. You were full of wisdom, and you had the seal of perfection on you. God did not create Lucifer damned. He did not create him bad. There was nothing bad in him, was there? But he had something that was very dangerous. And what is that? Volition. Thank you, Mary. Volition. Volition, that means free will. God, we find, that created angels with volition. God created angels in his image, didn't he? As he created man in his direct image. But there are things, everything, animals in creation have something, they mirror their creator in some way. Angels mirror their creator in what way? Marilyn? How do they mirror their creator? Angels. Let's think about angels. What are angels? They're triune, aren't they? They have bodies, they have souls, and they have spirit. Okay? And in this body, can an angel be killed? No. Angels can't be killed. Can you kill God? No. But Jesus Christ died on the cross of Calvary in his flesh. In his flesh. The man part of Jesus died on the cross of Calvary. Did the Father and the Son feel and experience that terrible, terrible experience? Yeah. Is God omniscient? Is He? And here we have the very person of God. Do you think the Father and the Son, the Father and the Holy Spirit did not experience this terrible trauma? It was the Son that did it, but we have an omniscient God, don't we? All right? Let's think about that. You had the seal of perfection. He was perfect. He was full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. The most wonderful angel is God beautiful.
What verse are we on?
On verse number 12.
Oh, okay.
And right at 13 right now.
And that's why
28 and 13.
thank you.
Now, you're full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. Is God beautiful? In what way did Lucifer portray God? Jesus said he was what? The light of this world. What does the word Hillel or Lucifer mean? Lucifer is Latin.
Well, light carrier.
Light carrier. He was the light of the world. Lucifer was. But he became darkness. Became darkness. You were in where? Eden. Now, was the king of Tyre ever in Eden? No. So who was in Eden here? Lucifer. The garden of God. What does garden mean? You remember garden? It means a guarded pleasure park. Who was supposed to be guarding the garden? In this time. There's two Edens in the Bible, aren't there? This is one Eden, and then we have man in the other Eden, and both of them are in the earth. Both of these Edens are throne rooms in the earth. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was your covering, and the ruby and the topaz and the diamond, the beryl, the onyx and the jasper, the lapis, the lazuli, the turquoise and the emerald, and the gold, and the workmanship of your settings and sockets. In other words, he looks like he shines and so beautiful that he looks like the luster of him is like all of these precious gems. And what's the throne room of God look like in that great rainbow throne room of God in the book of Revelation? What's the foundation of the throne room of God? Diamond. A diamond reflecting all the beauty of God. So did God make Lucifer in some ways like himself to shine forth his beauty and his power? Yes. The gold and workmanship of your settings was in you. On the day that you were created, they were prepared. Now, I would like to say this. It's just a passing thought. When Muhammad, now he says that the angel Gabriel appeared to him up on that mountain when he was up in that cave, and that the angel squished him and suffocated him, and what many psychiatrists and medical doctors said he was having an epileptic seizure. And this frontal lobe epilepsy, which they think he had, he's actually experiencing these things. But then years later, when he was in his sister's house, he was in bed, and he went into this seizure again, and he thought that he was transported from Mecca to Jerusalem. And the thing that transported him, this barak, this thing, had the body of a mule and the head of a man. And it was covered with all of these beautiful stones that are explained right here. Now, it says, the Bible says that Satan can turn himself into an angel of light and all of this. Now, do you think maybe that's what happened here? This Baruch, he said there's 1,000,000 of them in the heavens. How many angels are there? Lots of them. He said there's millions of these Baruchs in heaven. That's the way they transport the prophets, he said. This is the way the prophets are translated. You have to realize, back in church history, in this period of time that we're talking about here we have Muhammad born in 570 A.D., and this is past 610 A.D. This is when all this stuff is going on. And to him, these are fantastic. They had all kinds of visions and things back then. And they talked about all of these legends, and he's taken all these legends and poured them out as his religion that he has, and all of this great imagination, and some of it inspired. I'm sure. Some of it's inspired. So we have this man, and he's being transported from Mecca to Jerusalem. And when he gets to Jerusalem, he finds out that God has taken all of the prophets, and they're all there. And Allah tells Muhammad, teach all of them how to pray, because you're the best prayer in the world that ever was, the greatest prophet of all time. And he said, why not Jesus? He said, no, you're better. You're better. You're better. I want you to do it. Why not? He said, why not Jesus? And why not Moses and all these? He said, because you are the best person to pray. And now, when Muhammad prays, all of these people in the world have to pray like Muhammad prayed. They have to get have to sit down and cross their legs, so to speak, and then bow their heads forward and put it on the ground. Now that's the way, the stance of prayer that he said you have to pray. Well, how does the Bible tell you to pray, Brother Ray? Do you know?
No, there's any particular way of praying.
Did some people look up into heaven?
Yeah,
Some people look down. Did some people pray on their faces? Did some people pray on their backs? Some people pray running, sleeping, working. Yeah, I've done all those prayers. And how often are we supposed to pray? Always. Now, Muhammad, he gets to go through 7 heavens, and every heaven has got a prophet in it. And he goes, and these prophets, these patriarchs, he goes to each one of them. One of them's got Adam in it, and Adam's a bawling and going on and laughing and bawling and laughing and bawling. He tells all these stories about all this stuff. And when he's bawling, one of his children is thrown into hell. And when he's laughing, that's when they're become Islam. And he goes all the way up there, and he gets up there to where Moses is, and then he goes into the presence of God, Allah. And he says up there, he said, I want you to go back and start my religion. Well, we know that Matthew 16:18 says what? You're Peter, but upon this foundation of rock, Jesus, I'll be building my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against her. Well, Muhammad came along too late. He was born 570. He died by 632. Well, he's too late.
Yep.
Too late. So Muhammad goes in all these places, and he goes up there and he said, well, how should I teach him? You teach him how to pray, just like you're just a perfect prayer. And he's riding this rock all the way in heaven. He sees all these rocks up there. And anyway, so he says, how about 50 times a day? Yep, okay, that'd be fine. So he starts to go down, and he goes back to Moses. He said, that's too many times. And he goes, and then he remembers what happened when Abraham was talking to Jehovah, and when he said, how many times, how many people in Sodom will they be, before he destroyed Sodom? How many people there? If there's 5, and 50, 100, 500, or whatever it was, he said, yep, and he goes back and kept lowering the number. Because he figured that old Lot might have got some converts someplace. He didn't, did he? He didn't come up with 5 of them. There weren't 5 there. Only 4. Wasn't enough. Well, he goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. He finally goes up there and he said, how about 5 times? They're not going to pray 10 times. They're going to pray 40 times. They're going to pray 50 and not 500. How about 5 times? And he said to Allah, said, well, you know better. You know best. He knows best, better than all. Our God is not like that, is he? Well, now let's go back here to this person that we has described just like the Barak. You were blameless. Wait a minute. He said you were the anointed cherub. Now, what is a cherub? Marilyn, you know what a cherub?
Cherub is a little angel, a witness.
Brother Ray, what's a cherub?
Cherub goes over the ark.
Okay, that's cherub. Sharon, what is a cherub? Describe a cherub to me.
Well, they're they're winged angels.
Winged angels. So they're angels that have wings. So we know that Lucifer had wings. And we know also that the angels standing over the Ark of the Covenant, wherever that is, Don't have one of them, huh? Anyway, there's two angels, no, two cherubs actually, with their wings touching like that. So that's what this order of angels, we know that Lucifer was a cherub, the order of angels that have wings, and we know something else. There's the cherubim, there's a seraphim, and the teraphim. All right? We see these different ones, these angels. He said, you were the anointed cherub. Now, we know that there's archangels, and we think that Michael is an archangel. We believe that there's three archangels, three-head angels. And you were the anointed cherub who covers, and I placed you there. And you were in the holy mountain of God. You remember, Vincent, what does mountain mean in the Bible? Here especially.
Not government, is it?
Yeah, it sure is. A+. Government. It means government. You were in the holy government of God. You were a leader in the holy government of God. And you walked in the middle of the stones of fire. What is the stones of fire? Sharon, got any idea about that? That's the throne room of God. Go to the book of Revelation again. The throne room of God, where we see all of this fire and power and beauty, the rainbow throne of God. Where the diamond floor, the floor is a diamond. It's a diamond, a polished diamond. It says a crystal, like a crystal, but that is talking about a diamond. Diamonds reflect fire, don't they? And you were blameless in your ways from the days you were created until unrighteousness was found in you. By the abundance of your trade, you were internally filled with violence, and you sinned. Therefore, I cast you profane from the government of God. And I have destroyed you, O covering cherub. From the midst of the stones of fire, he's cast out of the very presence of God. Your heart was lifted up because of your beauty, and you corrupted your wisdom by reason of your splendor, and I cast you to the ground. He was created like God, wasn't he? To reflect what God is, representing. And as we live on this earth today, what we act like, we're supposed to walk in the steps of Jesus. That's it, in the steps of Jesus. I put you before kings that they may see you. Now, by the multitude of your iniquities and in the unrighteousness of your trade, you profaned your sanctuaries, destroyed your sanctuary. He was the leader of worship. Therefore I brought fire from the midst of you, and it has consumed you, and I have turned you into ashes on the earth, and the eyes of all to see you. Now let's go to Isaiah 14. This is the rest of the story. Isaiah 14. Isaiah 14. We got one part of it. Now we have from the book of Ezekiel, we have the prophet Ezekiel telling us what happened in eternity past here. It just happens to this open up a window in God's Word. He's talking about prophecy, and yes, God did bring the king of Tyre down, but that's not about the king of Tyre. That's about what happened with Satan. Isaiah 14 now. 12. Oh, how you have fallen from heaven. Hillel. That's what it says, Hillel. 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 Hillel means what? Shining one. Light bearer. Now, when Jerome translated the Latin Vulgate from the Greek Septuagint and from the Hebrew Bible, as he was translating that Latin Vulgate, he took the Latin word lucere, and he named him Lucifer, which means light carrier, or shining one. That's where we get our word Lucifer from. It does not come from the Hebrew text. The Hebrew text says Hallel, and that means shining one, and we have Lucifer. And so it calls him here the star of the morning, son of the dawn. You have been cut down to earth. You have weakened the nations. What was on the earth when God created it? From what physical science and archaeological evidence we have? Were there trees?
Dinosaurs.
There were trees and there were dinosaurs and things. We see this evidence, don't we? Mm-hmm. We have this evidence. Now, he weakened the nations. What nations were there on this earth? Were the nations of what? animals, trees, all of this. How many of you have seen pictures of Africa? You've been in Africa, Sharon. How many have seen pictures of Africa? Are there great herds of animals out there? Elephants and everything? And usually there is a alpha elephant, so to speak. And when we go into wolves, when you go into wolf kingdom, there's an alpha wolf, and they all have their little places, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then there's a guy down on the bottom. That's the picking animal. That's the one they peck on. Everybody pecks on them. You know anything about peck animal, Marilyn?
Yes.
Okay. Chickens. They have orders. In their kingdoms, they have chickens. You guys had chickens up here, didn't you? You have one that struts around and picking on everybody else, and then you have others that pick on him, and the other ones all the way down the line. Finally, you got the peck animal that gets beat up by everybody.
The one with the missing feathers.
Yeah, those are the one with missing feathers. I got a little hen at home. I call her Missy. Missy's a sweet little hen, and she's got one called Freckles in there with her, and that's her sister. And then she's got her husband, which is called Poncho. I have Poncho, Missy, and Freckles in that pen. Now, Poncho's the boss. And after Poncho, it is Freckles. And at the bottom of the ladder is Missy. Now, Missy was hatched out at the same time as her sister and everything, but just something happened with her. Now, I want to tell you this thing about Missy. Missy has got the sharpest spurs on her that you've ever seen on a hen, and they're about that long. Now, if she just had the fortitude to flog her sister one time, she'd run from them heels of hers, because she's got some sharp heels. She could peck as hard as her sister, but somehow or another, her sister just started pecking her before she did. And that worked, and it just laid it on down. Now, that little girl, little Missy, has got the ability to whoop her sister. She just doesn't know it. I used to go out in the backyard, and I had a pig that weighed about 1,100 pounds. At one time, her name was Wilbur. Dakota named her. And some of you, well, Marilyn, Sharon, did you ever? You never did see Wilbur. She was about that tall, like this, and she was about 9 feet long at least. She could stand up and look over a 7-foot roof, looking for me on her hind legs. And she thought that I was bigger than she was. I'd get out there and I'd say, "Come here, Wilbur," and she'd mind me, wouldn't she, Marilyn?
Yeah.
She'd do whatever I told her to do, and I carried this stick along with me. Actually, it was a piece of thin rod. It was like a piece of pipe, real thin pipe. And I'd tap her on the butt with that thing, and I said, "Get on over here, do this, do that." And she'd go, you know. She always thought that I was bigger than she was. But I only weighed about 900 pounds less. When she'd run out across that yard, the ground would just shake. Just shake. People would come to visit me just to see Wilbur, didn't they, Mary? They want to see Wilbur. I'd turn out there, and I'd go over there, and I'd open Wilbur's gate. I said, "Open the gate, Wilbur," and she'd open the gate like that. I said, take a lope across the yard, Wilbur." Boy, she'd take it just loping like this, and they'd jump up over the fence, jump on the other side of the fence, because here's this mammoth pig loping around out there. Just loping and loping and loping. She was the head of the yard, the boss of the yard, but I was her boss. Nothing in that yard was bigger than she was. She's bigger than the horses. You weaken the nations. And you said in your heart, "I will send up to heaven." Where's heaven? The direction of heaven is up. "And I will send up to heaven, and I will I will raise my throne above the stars of God." Who's the stars? Vincent, you know who the stars are? Who's the stars?
Not the angels, isn't it?
The other angels, yeah, other angels. The stars of God. "And I will set in the mount of the assembly in the recesses of the north." Now, where is heaven? Which direction is heaven?
North.
Go the northest part of the earth and go straight up into the third heaven. There aren't 7 heavens, as Muhammad said. There's 3 heavens, because the Bible says that. "And I will send above the heights of the clouds, and I will make myself like the Most High. Nevertheless, you will be thrust down to Sheol, to the recesses of the pit. Those who see you will gaze at you. Will he one of these days?" Now, that hasn't happened yet. He's going to go down into the bottomless pit in Revelation 27 through 9, and then he's going to be raised up again over here, And he's going to have his last big brigade against God there, which we call the Battle of Gog and Magog. And then God is going to zap them all. And that's when he gets to be thrown into the lake of fire. And that's what's going to happen right there. That's when this is going to happen. All right? You learn anything? All right? Nevertheless, you'll be thrust down the shield to the recesses of the pit, and those who gaze at you will ponder over you, saying, Is this the man who made the earth to tremble and shook the kingdom, and made the world like a wilderness? Tohu wabohu. That's the term. And overthrew its beautiful places. It doesn't say cities in the original, it means beautiful places. Now, cities are beautiful places. You go to Las Vegas. Now, I don't like going to Las Vegas, but if you go over there, what do you see over in Las Vegas, Marilyn?
Bright lights.
Bright lights in big city. And people like to see all these bright lights over there. I just like to go up there in Fish Lake Valley and look up and just watch the lights God made. That's the beauty. The beautiful places. The beautiful places. Who made the world like a wilderness and overthrow its beautiful places, who did not allow his prisoners to go home. Now let's go back to Genesis 1 and 2. And the earth she had become tohu wabohu. You know what that means now, brother? Can you say that, Brother Ray? Tohu wabohu, tohu wabohu. Tohu wabohu. Wichoshek. Wichoshek, that means darkness. It's scotia. Scotia saphon in Greek. That's thick, thick darkness. Have you ever been where it's just black? Vincent, you ever been someplace where it's just dark, dark, dark? Have any of you? Well, yeah, you couldn't see your hand in front of you.
I was stuck in a building, and then the fire went out, and it was all cement building.
Yes, no lights.
You could not see nothing.
You couldn't see where you were going, anything. You can get lost in there and no way you can find out. When I was blinded in Fish Lake Valley when that lightning struck in front of me, I was out there in the middle. I just got out of that flood that was 2 miles wide. I survived that, but now rain is pouring down on me, and lightning is running all over the place, and lightning struck right in front of me, horizontal lightning, and my eyes shut, my retina shut and would not open up. So I felt my way, because I knew what the road felt like. Boy, you better improvise when you get to something like that. 7 miles! 7 miles. 7 miles I walked like that, with sand in my shoes with no socks on, and I didn't have any toenails when I got through. I had no toenails. They're gone. Just wore them off. My feet were just like I sanded them all over. Real good.
Good time to go walking around outside.
Yeah. Boy, that was the middle of the night.
Yeah, we stayed
That was the
inside.
middle of the night, too. I had been out there taking a bath out there in the hot tub.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went out there and, boy, I just
Right.
enjoyed myself real good. As
Yeah,
praying and going
sounds like
on.
it.
I tell you what, God brought me through that because I should have died right there. 4 foot of water at least 2 miles wide. In some places much deeper than that. And finally my left eye began to open up where I could see. But boy, it was darkness. It was black. There was no lights in Fish Lake Valley. The road was washed out in 11 places. Darkness. The earth she had become darkness, formless and void. Scotia. Wishoshek. Say Wishoshek.
How?
El Panay. Upon the faces of the Tohom. The Tohom means the deep, the abyss. The abyss was a mass of roaring, muddy what? The earth had become destruction. Down in Bakersfield area, you can go out there in the Sharks and Mountains out there on Pozo Road and back by Hart Park, back in those mountains back there, and you could see where large fish were. That's Shark's Tooth Mountain, you know.
Up there.
Yeah. All of this was on the bottom of the ocean one time. Now, the earth that was here, the earth that was here was destroyed. That's the earth that was. Now we have the earth that is, and the earth that is, that goes all the way from here to the end of the millennium, that earth has been reconstructed. That earth was changed here in the flood. It was completely surrounded by water. After the flood, we don't have oceans in the sky anymore like we had before. And that's something you need to understand. Here's the earth, and here's the atmosphere, and above this atmosphere in the first heaven was an ocean of water around the earth. That ocean of water, there were rivers of water coming down from the heaven. Now the earth was dirt and water on it. But now the earth is completely covered with water. Now, is there still enough water to do that today? Put all the water out of the skies and put all the water out of the poles and everything else, where it'll flood the earth again. It's there, but it's stored up. Now, when God destroyed the earth with water, it wasn't totally destroyed, was it? But every living creature on the earth and all the Nephilim and everything all died at that period of time. Then we have the earth, and we have Nimrod, and builds the Tower of Babel, and it's finished, and that's a religious system that he builds, and then God does what? He confuses the languages. Now we have at least 2,720 languages in the world, root forms, or 760 below that language forms, and then God divided the earth. In the days of Peleg, God destroyed the earth. So now we have continents instead of just Pangea or Gondwana. We have continents, and you can look at a globe and see how the earth is taken apart. This is all science and archaeology and anthropology too, and angiology and demonology and all that. This all took place back in eternity past. We're all talking about this here. The earth had there was darkness over the face of the earth. In Revelation 12 and 4, verse 4, it says at least 1/3 of the angelic and spiritual forces fell with Satan, or Lucifer. 1/3 of them. And he is called the Prince of Darkness, isn't he? Because here's when the darkness became. He had been the Prince of Light before, now he's the Prince of Darkness. And then it says, Ruach. Say, Ruach. And Spirit. Now, if you go look at Jewish Publication Society Bible, it said, and a wind from God. But we're not talking about a wind from God. We're talking about Spirit God here. And Spirit God. Ruach Elohim. Merichetheth. Merichetheth this is one of the most beautiful Genesis 1 and 2 is one of the most beautiful verses in the Bible. And it tells us, it's the John 3:16 of the Old Testament. And then Spirit God was mourning. He was suffering. Mourning and suffering. Now it's PL. PL stem is what? Marilyn, you remember what PL stem is? In Hebrew? Sharon, what's PL stem?
It's intensely.
It's intense. It is an intense stem. There are 7 verb stems, and the PL stem is the intense stem. That's the violent, intense stem. It talks about tremendous action. Let's look at what it says here. Merichetheth. And Spirit Elohim. How about Shekinah? Shekinah glory. Shekinah glory. Shekinah in the Hebrew Bible, or the Hebrew Mishnah and the Talmud, Shekinah is what gender, Sharon? Feminine gender. Now, in the Greek New Testament, what gender is spirit? Neuter. But here, we're talking about the Shekinah glory of God, and it's talking about this intense suffering that Spirit God felt when he saw his creation destroyed. Spirit God suffered over it. Now, every one of us, Spirit God suffers over us when he's wooing us to himself. God calling us, this is a time that God, our eternal destiny is at stake, isn't it, when God calls us? I remember when God called me to him. My grandmother had died not too long before. It was 1961, January of 1961 when I was saved. I went to this little Pentecostal church, and I had been reading the Bible. They gave me a Bible, and I had read the whole thing. I'll give me a book, I'll read it. Most time. I read that thing, and I was miserable. It was bad. I felt terrible. And they didn't even give an invitation. I just decided that I was going to go down to the altar and pray. Because I'd seen people do that before, so I did that. Now, they were up there talking in tongues, having a good time, just doing all kinds of stuff, and they didn't care anything about me. I'm just this young Indian boy wandering down there. And why was I down there? Well, my mother had been married several times, and her third husband, her mother-in-law was a very godly woman, and she went to this little church. And so she followed me down there, and she explained the plan of salvation to me. She told me how I could be saved, how if I called upon the Lord, and the Lord's Spirit was suffering over me right then. He was calling me to Him. Now, could I have rejected?
Sure.
I could have done it. I could have rejected it. And how do you think God would have felt? Just like you felt right here. Okay? I asked the Lord to save my soul, and I was saved. Now, my stepdad even talked me later on to thinking that I was an atheist for a little while. But I was still saved. I was sure messed up because that church didn't teach me anything about the Bible. I didn't learn anything there. All I learned was these big emotional displays. And that if you were really saved, you was going to get these gifts and fall out and do all this kind of stuff. Well, I didn't have any of that happen to me. And I wandered through life, and I got to reading the Bible again later on in my life. Everything was happening bad. Man, I mean, bad things were happening to me. I had a terrible wife. I had got hurt in the oil fields. My back was destroyed. I was paralyzed in my legs, and it was going to stay that way if I didn't have an operation. And I had to go get on welfare to do that because the oil company got out of fixing me and out of everything that they had done to me. Then I had a wreck which killed another man and should have killed me. He was doing 90 miles an hour, and I was doing 45, and we hit head on. It cut his Oldsmobile 98 half in two. And my Jeep pickup, I had a 1-ton Jeep pickup, and I went backwards faster than I was going forward. I just picked up a big bag of walnuts, and they were cracked all over the place, the impact. And my back was bad. I was waiting for surgery on my back. Okay? I had my foot on the brake, and I broke the brake pedal off with my foot. I broke the brake pedal off. I had my hand on the steering wheel, and I pushed the steering wheel all the way through. I bent the steering column and pushed the steering wheel all the way through the windshield. And my hands were all cut. And my right knee hit the dash so hard that the key broke off in my kneecap. It broke. It went all the way through my kneecap. My hands were cut up and everything else. And I was going backwards 60 miles an hour, I think, for a long way out there by Bolt House. That's down Fairfax. Grundy's Lane, that is. Just past Fairfax, between Fairfax and Weepack. I stepped out of that pickup in a daze, so to speak. There was no front end on it. It's gone. The engine's gone. The engine's gone. Everything's gone. The whole front end is gone. There's nothing from the dash out. It's all gone. I'm going to tell you something. God was there. His Spirit was there. His angel was there protecting me. And I walked over there to where the man was, and he's dead. And his wife said he's dead. And he'd just come back from his daughter's wedding. And my uncle had raised him. This is all this stuff, you know. He was drinking and was driving really fast and wasn't watching. He never saw me whatsoever at all. He just gone. 2 weeks later, I was going up to Glenville, and it was raining a little bit, and this old couple run me off the road and flipped my truck over that I had just got. I just got it a week before because the other one was destroyed. And I bought this one from Sherman, Phillips, Maryland. This was a Falcon Ranchero, like you used to have, with a little 260 V8 and an automatic in it. This guy run me over off the road, and it flipped over in the air like that, and I was holding Jimmy down in the floorboard to keep him alive. And I cut my mouth completely just like that in two on the steering wheel. But I kept that boy down. He got banged up a little bit, but I had 2 mouths completely through. 2 wrecks like that and it almost kills my kid this time. And I am reading my Bible. Just like that. What's going on here? What's going on, Lord? What do you want out of me, Lord? You know, if you're there, reveal yourself to me. Tell me something. Do something here. So I started going to church. And I thought I had to get saved again, but I didn't. I was already saved. I didn't know that then. But I began to study the Bible. And this is what happened to me. You see it today, okay? And then it says, Spirit Elohim was mourning over intensely. And it's a participle. It's a PL participle, feminine, singular. He was doing that. And this is the story. God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in Him shall not perish but have everlasting life. That's the story. This is where that story began right here. Because now He's going to put the earth back together, and He's going to put man on it, and in the second Edom to replace that old buzzard, Lucifer, that threw it away. Over the faces of the waters. Over the faces of the waters. So we see that. In Luke 10 and 18, Jesus said He saw Satan falling like a bolt of lightning to the earth. What does lightning do when it hits the earth? Causes destruction. We found out Ezekiel 28 and Isaiah 14, it tells us, as these prophets are giving their prophecies, it tells us what happened in eternity past. And then, from now on, then we're going to see how God put it back together. Vincent, do you have a song for us? A little song?
343.
343. 343. Now, if you're out there and you're listening to this message, if you don't know the Lord, come to Him. You can keep on rejecting Him and you can go to hell if you wish. But His Spirit is suffering over you right now, calling you to Himself. If you are not serving the Lord like you ought to, if there's something the Lord wants in your life and some service, if you want that, here we are. God gives His invitation to you again, brother.
Lord, have we heard Thee calling, come?